Kevin.
What?
I want to say welcome to the world, John Hamilton Hutchison, my fifth child.
Yeah, congratulations.
He came Saturday morning at 1:44 a.m.
That was a long labor.
Well, Caitlin was not in labor. She went to the doctor Wednesday. Baby's heart rate was a little elevated. He had like the mountain peaks going on. He'd go up and down, up and down. And so they wanted to do a test. Everything was okay, but the doctor said she wanted to see her Friday. Went in Friday, and the doctor was like, you know what? I think we should go ahead and have this baby today. Because there was something, the way she put it, he's not getting along with his placenta.
And she wasn't in labor yet?
Not in labor yet. So she said,
okay.
She called me, she sent me a text and just said, we're having a baby today. And I was like, what?
So we're in the middle of our daily line walk at work.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he just hands me his little magnet and says, I'm out. I'm having a baby.
Yeah.
Now that I know that she wasn't in labor yet, I'm like, you could probably stay the rest of the day.
Well, the doctor said, go ahead, go to the hospital. You don't have to rush, but don't take too long. So she was trying not to. My wife was a little anxious because we've lost a child, and she's a nurse, and she's technically a geriatric mother. She's 37.
Oh, I can't believe you said that.
And that's what the doctors say. The doctors.
We
that's
need to
a
cut this show.
Real medical term, geriatric pregnancy. When you're, I think, over 35 or older now, which is insane to me.
Wow.
But that's what they called it. So,
all right, folks, I want to let you all know that having a baby is a great thing. Congratulations.
Absolutely.
This will probably be our last show because I doubt if Matt will survive the week.
Listen, my wife is beautiful and amazing, and she does not look 37. She looks like she's 27. And
well, she's still geriatric.
So
according
we went
to you.
according to medical nerds that made that rule up. But she is so strong, a tough dude. So we went in, and we sit in the waiting room. It's like the labor and delivery. There you go, and they're like, okay, just sit over there
until you're ready.
Yeah, and we're like, all right, we're sitting here for quite a while, and but it was funny. You see the other women coming in who are actually in labor. And they're like having contractions and they're holding themselves up on the counter. And I just wanted to go like, can I help you? Where's your husband?
I'm certified. I can drop your baby for you.
Yeah, let me do it. I'll tell you about that here shortly. But so we finally go up and we get in the room, and the nurses were awesome. Everybody was great. Our nurse was about 7'5". I don't know how tall she was. Probably literally like 6'6", I think. Giant. And a sweet lady. So we go in, and they give her some medication. It wasn't Pitocin, but it was some kind of medication to do what it does. I don't want to get too graphic, but and we sat and waited for a while and watching TV and just hanging out. I was reading a book. I was reading short stories, some Ernest Hemingway short stories. It was cool. And we're just hanging out because my mom had Emma. And my wife, after a while, they gave her another dose of the medicine. And it was, do you feel any cramping or anything? And she's like, no, not really. Just maybe kind of like a very mild period cramp maybe. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, we'll check back in with you. And then they came in about an hour later, where they're, man, it's getting late. I was like, dude, it's 10 o'clock. We got here at, I don't know, 11:30 maybe, and a.m., around noon. I was like, it's going to be 10 o'clock. What the heck? We could have just stayed. I could have stayed at work. That's literally what I said. I could have stayed at work.
That's what I just said.
And, they did a Foley catheter, it's called. And that's kind of graphic too. I don't want to talk about that. But anyway, she was dilating, and they centimeter this centimeter. But man, they started on Pitocin. They broke her water, and then they started the Pitocin, and then it was like, it's on. This baby's coming. And my wife did no medication, no pain medication at all. Natural. And the nurses were amazing. They were like, well, let's try this position and through these next contractions. We'll do these, move over here to open up your pelvis a little bit and help do this. And it was everything my wife wanted to do. We walked down the hallway. We got in the shower, hot water, doing massage and breathing. And it was really cool, man. And she was in control and tough the whole time. And I'm like crying the whole time. I was like tears in my eyes the whole time because I was like, this woman is absolutely amazing. It's the most beautiful thing you can see is a child being born. And so my big goal with this one was I wanted to catch the baby. I always wanted to do that. I've come close a couple times on the ambulance, and I was like, I would love to participate in the birth of my child. That would be great. So I'm like holding Caitlin's hand, and you're doing great, giving her all this encouragement, helping her breathe. And she's like, I'm feeling some pressure. And I was like, oh, the baby's coming. So let me go get down here, get ready. And she had a hold on my thigh. She was holding on so tight, I could not move an inch. And she's like, the nurse said, okay, we're going to check your cervix and see how you're dying. She's like, if you go to check my cervix, you're going to touch the baby's head. He's right there. And they were like, oh, and then all the nurses are like, oh no. And the whole time I'm like, hey, this baby's coming. She's feeling like, doctor comes in. I'm like she has my leg, so I'm trying to lean over to see what's going on. And, my wife's 5'10". She's pretty tall. She's not. And so I'm trying to see. And the doctor was there for maybe 10 seconds. My wife pushed one time, and the baby was out. And I was like, oh, man. I missed it. But instantly, I was there for my wife. That's really what it was. We did talk, and she's like, she's like, are you going to do it? I was like, no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay here with you. Like, this is intense, and I want to be here for you. She's my number one priority in my life. It's her, then the kids. And so I was just telling her, like, it's totally fine. That would have been a cherry on top. The whole experience of going through childbirth, my first 2 children were C-sections, which is an experience in itself, but a natural birth, man, there ain't nothing like it.
Well, good for her. She set the record at 1 because when my son Michael was born, Gail pushed 2 times and he was out. And as soon as he was out, Gail goes, man, I'm hungry.
With Emma, when Emma was born, Caitlin said, like, "Ooh, I could do that again." This time, she said, "I am not doing that again."
Well, kudos to you.
Thank God, because I'm definitely getting up towards geriatric. I'm too old to be having babies.
Well, congratulations again.
Thank you very much, and welcome to the world, Jack. That's what we're calling him, Jack. We're super excited. You probably heard Emma run. She's like Lord of the Flies up there because Mom's with the baby and Emma's all on her own doing who knows what. So I got to get up there. It's dinner time. Thank you, guys. Welcome to the Headspace and Tasting Podcast, where we talk manhood, tell stories, and discuss the stuff that matters to us one sip at a time.
Hello, Matt.
Hello, Kevin.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Welcome me to my own house.
I wanted to make a quick show correction.
Okay.
To last week's show. Not that your argument was invalid, because it was. But I kept mentioning toward the end all about the singer Susie Q, and you're getting confused with Creedence Clearwater Revival, I think.
Yeah, they sang a song.
Yeah,
Susie
it's
Q.
not Susie Q. I was thinking of it was Stacy Q.
Stacy Q.
Yeah.
I don't know who.
She was a one-hit wonder.
Oh, okay.
And I just wanted to make that quick correction.
Okay. Well, yeah, I was dying to know what we were talking about.
To our 8 listeners.
Please forgive us.
On a serious note, probably missed in most news sources because I didn't even see it until late yesterday. Mm-hmm. But Colonel Bruce Crandall, United States Army aviator, passed away this past Sunday, May 31st.
The old snake.
He was 93 years old, and just like you said, he was better known by his call sign Snake, who earned the Medal of Honor for his role in the 1965 Battle of Ia Drang Valley in Vietnam. He switched through several helicopters because they were so shot up that he couldn't continue to fly them, and he flew 22 missions during that battle to evacuate more than 70 wounded soldiers.
Yeah.
And
Now, originally, it was the Distinguished the Flying Cross, right?
yeah, it
Not
was
distinguished,
upgraded.
but Flying Cross. But then it was upgraded in was it the Obama administration or Trump administration?
I don't know which.
But
Can't
yeah,
remember.
wow.
But Greg
Too
Kinnear
late.
in the movie
Great role. It was
We Were
great.
Soldiers played him, and he did a really good job playing him in that movie.
And the movie was great, and as always, the book is much more detailed. Great, great, great book.
Yep.
We Were Soldiers Once and Young is the title of that.
So I wanted to raise a toast to
Yeah.
Colonel Bruce Crandall, the Snake, and everyone else he served with during that battle in Vietnam.
Yeah, rest in peace,
Here,
sir.
here. All right. Well,
Here's
as we
a
make
coaster, you heathen.
well, I had it over here.
Oh, okay.
So there
You're
you go.
okay, man. You don't have to worry. I'm just talking to Kevin.
So making that transition, the whole point of tonight's show.
Yes.
I want to introduce our special guest, Cathryn Shaw. She is the founder of a charity here in St. Louis called All Among Us. And I have a quick little bio.
Okay.
Cathryn Shaw worked at a construction company in downtown St. Louis in 2006. During orientation, she was instructed not to turn right out of the building when leaving because the Powell building, a heroin addict shelter, was just a block away. Across the street from Powell, there were several homeless camps and settlements and abandoned warehouses. Cathryn met a young couple lying on a pier with only their sleeping bags one evening as she was leaving work. She built a friendship with the couple over the course of several months, providing them with necessities and assisting them in securing and moving into a permanent home. Cathryn was so moved by the couple's achievement that she decided to devote her life to helping the chronically homeless and impoverished single mothers of St. Louis City. Cathryn founded All Among Us to devote her full time and attention to those living in generational poverty. After serving hundreds of people each year for 20 years, she has developed a significant volunteer network to aid her efforts. Welcome to the show, Cathryn.
Thanks, Kevin.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Yeah, welcome. We met a few weeks ago
That's
for
right.
the first time. We had our first meeting. Do we want to jump right in that, or do you want to talk about the history?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit first, because Cathryn and I go back 10, 12, probably about 12, 13 years, thereabouts. We met through our last employment, my last job, and Cathryn really made a difference in my life personally when I was diagnosed with cancer and hit my fight. She just jumped right in and did everything she can to provide for, support the family, and really just wrap all our kids together and entertain them and keep them in positive spirits throughout that whole period of time. My kids still mention it every now and then, the times that did the zoo together and things like that, and the pictures that you took of us in the backyard are just so professional. I mean, they're some of the best pictures we have as a family. And, that support was just unbelievable to me. I mean, I just couldn't imagine. And then, flash forward again, I know that there was one period of time where I was coming out of that fight, and you put out an alert that you needed help with some provisions one day, and
Right.
I just grabbed my best friend and we went to Costco and filled up our car with as much food as we were able to buy and drop it off to you. And, I know that didn't go to waste. And then here we are again today.
Been connected ever since.
Yes. So good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
All right. So the first story that we heard in your bio, what year was that? Do you know?
Well, that's at 2006.
2006. Is that what you
It
said?
was about 19 years ago.
19 years ago.
Right.
Okay. And then when did you form your current
All Among Us.
Yeah.
We're in our 10th year right now.
10 years? Okay.
Right. So I did it on a volunteer basis for about 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it with a lot of single moms. I was going to a large church at that time. And so just had a bevy of single moms come together.
Wow.
And a lot of the single moms were poor too. And but everything we did, we could really do from inside of our houses. So
Okay.
we all used towels and used sheets and took food out of our own pantries. that we could spare. And one of us would have an extra mattress in the basement that we could put into a tent, would have extra camping equipment that we could spare, extra sleeping bags. And so it didn't cost very much to serve the homeless. We just took from our own bounty.
Okay.
And we actually tried to do, we kind of called it glamping, but there weren't as many women on the streets, obviously, as men.
Yeah.
But we were into a camp that did have a lot of women. And so each of those women got to make a list. And they got to make a list of their wants, and they got to make a list of their needs.
Wow.
And we would do our very best to meet the need list.
Yeah.
And then we'd start it on the want list.
Okay.
And see how we could do with that. So I did that with other single moms for, 9 years.
Wow. And then how did it transition into what it is today?
I had a couple people come to me and they say that they felt like God was calling me into this ministry. Yeah. And I said, absolutely not. By that time I had just gone through breast cancer. I had a daughter with some special needs. And, to be honest, it was hard for me to trust God with finances. It was hard to trust him with health insurance.
Sure.
I said, I'll do this when I retire. But now it's definitely not the time. And I had one person suggest that for 3 months at lunchtime, I read what God had to say about finances and what he had to say about the poor and the vulnerable. And I'd been a Christian since I was 7 and raised in a church where you were at church every time doors were open and sometimes when they weren't. And I had no idea how many verses in the Bible there were about serving the poor and the vulnerable.
Yeah.
Almost more than any other thing except maybe money. And then every verse about money says that God's going to take care of all of our needs. And there wasn't one verse that said God's going to leave me hanging.
No, that's for sure.
Yeah. And so in those 3 months, it came very clear to me that God isn't asking me to serve the poor and the vulnerable. He's telling me to serve the poor and the vulnerable. It's not waiting to be called. That's not the words he uses. The words he uses that as a Christian, this is what I'm telling you to do.
Yeah.
I think the word is go.
Go. Yeah.
Exactly, it is, right. And I was raised with parents who helped people. My parents helped people all the time. My dad's the person who would change a tire on the side of the highway, or my dad has a story from a man at work who has experienced great anxiety, and he had heard from another man, just what great anxiety this man had. And my family, we were lower middle class. And this man needed $300, and this would have been like the late 1960s. And my parents didn't have $300. And he called my mom from work and said, do we have $300? And she said, we have $300. Not that there's $300 available.
Right.
But they had it. And my dad said, I need that $300 for a man at work. And he brought that $300 to his man at work and gave it to him. And he said, will this help with your anxiety? And he said, this takes my anxiety away completely. It was $300 that man couldn't come up with. But my parents were willing to give that to him from what they didn't have.
Sure.
And so I was raised with parents who modeled this behavior to me. And so once I started with it, it didn't feel foreign.
Okay.
It felt comfortable to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know that in the intro, it was based on a job that you had where they told you not to go that way.
Right. Absolutely.
Did you have experience with homelessness or anything like that prior to that event?
Absolutely not. I was one of 3 girls. I had parents who were very all about safety with us. If there had been I was raised in St. Charles. I had never seen a homeless person in St. Charles. Not to say they weren't there. I'm just saying I hadn't seen them. If we did, we would have needed to cross the street. My dad would not have kept us on the same side of the street. And so, no, I had no experience with them. And when I met that couple, they were going to the left. So I had turned left out of the building, and they were there on a pier. I'm a rule follower. I never would have made it right out of that building after being told not to. And my sister has learning disabilities. And the way that young woman, and they were probably 18 and 19, and the way her body moved, the way she acted, the way she greeted me, she was just like my sister. And I thought, that's my sister without family. That's my sister without my mom and dad in her life. The other part of that story, within just a couple weeks, and I would just leave. I would go to lunch. And it sounds so petty right now, but I would eat half my lunch and I'd leave the other half on the dock for them. And I look at that and I think, seriously, you left them half of your lunch? There's 2 people there to feed. But that's how I started out. And then I started out buying $10 worth of food at Aldi's every week. I wasn't asking them what they wanted. I was making assumptions on this is what they needed, this is the protein they needed, this is the vegetables they needed, this is the fruit they needed, those 4 food groups. And I had a Prius, so they didn't hear me pulling up, and I would just leave that on the dock. And I'd probably done that for 6 weeks before she was on the dock, just waving like wildly at me, asking, are you the person who's leaving the food? And I said yes. And I said, is there anything else I can do for you guys? And she said, we just want to thank you. And that so touched me, because if you asked me that question, I would have a list for you of what I needed.
Yeah.
I need fans, I need a battery, I need batteries for my fan, I need this, I need that. And they weren't asking for anything.
Is that based on your learnings and experience since you started helping, or would you have always been someone who says, this is exactly what I need?
Say that again.
Well, you said that if someone was going to ask me what I need, I'm going to tell you exactly what I need.
I would know what I needed if I were homeless. I think my list would be pretty long if I were homeless of what I need. I want a cooler, I need food, I need ice, I need drink. They didn't have any of those things.
Gotcha.
And for them, all they wanted to do was thank me. All they wanted to do was show appreciation. And I thought that was amazing. Now, going forward, as we formed a relationship, I was able to say, do you need a cooler? Do you need ice every 3 days? Within a month, she became pregnant, and she couldn't read. And so just the, daily vitamins you're supposed to take, she met me one day and she said, I got this from the doctor, but I have no idea what to do with it. So she didn't know how to take her prenatal vitamins. So there was a woman who worked at another office, and we met, and she took over all the medical appointments. She was like, I'll raise my hand to do that. I'll do that on my lunchtime. So she took over that, and the nearest bathroom was at the White Castle. It was about 4 blocks away from her. So I made her just a little toilet that we could just stick inside the warehouse. So it was just a camping toilet, but it kept her from having to walk 4 blocks. I mean, when you're pregnant, you don't have time to walk 4 blocks. And we got her in a house about 2 weeks before the baby was born. And a week after the baby was born, the baby was taken away for neglect. And it was a time that I've had several times in the beginning where I thought, that's it. I'm finished. I've done everything God's called me to do. There's no other homeless person out there He's calling me to serve. It was just those 2. And then, weeks or months go by, and I'm called back again. But that was the first couple that I really got involved with and really had relationships with, and really understood that God's calling me to relationship. He's not calling me to drop off a bologna sandwich.
Well, that's one of the things that we saw firsthand, because was about 3 weeks ago. You and me met. We met Cathryn downtown, and we went with you on a food distribution day towards the homeless, and that's exactly what we saw. We saw you actually checking into the welfare of every single person that was out there. We saw you specifically ask, what is it you need? And even if they didn't answer in the way you thought they were going to answer, you were being very specific. Are you sure you don't need batteries? Are you sure you don't need a tent? Are you sure you don't need a fan? And just on and on. It was overwhelming, really, to watch.
That camp we visited, we've been back now about 4 times, and they now took down a camping shower. That was the number one thing they wanted. And they have built a shower. It's probably 5 by 5.
Oh, wow.
And they had extra tarps and extra pieces of tents. And they have built the shower, and they have they picked up pallets to put underneath it because they don't want it to be wet. They don't want snakes.
Yeah.
So they have pallets underneath it now, and also took them a camping toilet. So the toilet's inside the shower. It's up on a chair or something. They pull it down when they need it. They have done a great job with that. And I asked them, how do you guys get your food? Because they probably have maybe 6 or 7 people at that camp. And they said there's one church down there that serves lunch Monday through Friday. There's another church that serves dinner Monday through Friday. And it's about a mile away. So they walk to those churches for lunch and for dinner. And I said, do you have access to water? And they said about a third of a mile away, there's a spigot where we can get water. And they have a wagon. So I left them again a camping jug, water of,
The 5 gallon.
Yeah, that's right. And so they can fill that up. And the bladder for the shower also probably holds 4 gallons, and they can fill that up. So when we're talking what resources they had, I was just very impressed by them. And we took Missy, the young blonde, over to get her driver's license renewed. And so she does driving for Amazon. She does driving for DoorDash. And so she can bring in some income every month. She just needed her driver's license renewed, which was in Illinois. They didn't have enough gas money with that truck to get to Illinois. So she uses that truck
Okay.
to do her deliveries.
Wow.
I was impressed with that.
Yeah. Well, I'm impressed just what you're telling me about their skill set and the things they think about and how to put something together. I mean,
Yeah. They
there's a lot of
sent-
people who are,
No.
I guess, would be homeless who wouldn't even think about.
Very true. They're very resourceful. They keep 2 fires going all the time for bugs because the bugs there on the river are so bad. So they keep 2 fires burning at all times for the smoke to keep the bugs away.
Oh.
They spread ashes along the bank to keep bugs away.
What's the city's role in a situation like this?
The city will run them off at some point. But I want to brag on the city right now because typically I do not. But since Mayor Spencer came in over the winter, there's never enough shelters. There's never transportation. It's a train wreck in the city during the wintertime. And Mayor Spencer, last year, there were enough shelter beds for anybody who was able and willing to go to a shelter. If you were able and willing to walk to a bus, which could be a mile for you or half a mile, you had transportation to those shelters. The shelters were open 24/7, which never happens. She did an amazing job with shelter beds last year and opened them before the storm. So she did not wait until that storm came to open something. She had it open like 24 hours before, where we could get everybody to the shelter before that storm came. Typically, we're in the middle of an ice storm, snowstorm, trying to find these people who are hunkered down to get them into a shelter, and she didn't do that. So I was very impressed with her last year.
That's good news.
And I suspect she's going to do the same thing in the heat, because the heat can be just as dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I saw one of your Facebook posts during the deep freeze last year in which you were actually going around and checking hands and feet.
Absolutely.
And making sure people were
Absolutely.
heated properly or warm.
Right.
We ran into the one guy with his scrap metal. He was kind of limping, and you asked, "What's wrong with your foot?" And he said, "Oh, I got frostbite back in
He
the
had
winter."
frostbite,
I was like,
right.
"Man, that's months ago.
Right.
Like at least 3 months ago before it was
But
really cold."
if he hasn't had those toes taken care
That
of,
could be a big problem.
and even if you had them removed, you still have a big problem walking.
Infection or gangrene.
That's right.
I mean,
It's
wow.
awful.
Yeah.
It's awful. I remember the first time I saw somebody, that had frostbite, and I was so taken aback. I had no idea how horrible it was.
Yeah.
We had a woman the year before who was holding up in a abandoned house, and she had lost all 5 of her toes on her left foot and was walking in a boot.
It's so extremely painful too.
Yes.
Man.
And then just her trying to get around in this boot and her foot hurting all the time. So we really try to take care of people's feet and hands in the wintertime. So when we ask for gloves, we say we really need what you would need to wear if it was 0 degrees. We don't need gloves from the dollar store. It
No.
doesn't work.
Mittens might actually be better, huh?
Mittens are very good
Yeah.
if they're the good mittens.
Yeah.
And you personally go out once a week.
Yeah, we go out about once a week.
Yeah, you scared me.
Yeah. Well, I'll
Be
say
honest.
we were driving down to meet you, and it's quiet in the car, and I just kind of turned. I said, "Kevin, I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm a little nervous about this." And he said, "Oh, me too." So I was
Well,
like, finally, we both admit. And because growing up in St. Charles County, anytime you cross the bridge, it's like, "Oh, what are you going over there? Why are you crossing the bridge? It's dangerous over there in the city and all that kind of stuff." There's people here who won't even go to Cardinals games because
I grew up the same way.
and you're like, I don't get it. But going to meet with homeless people who could have mental illness or drug problems or whatever, you don't really know what you're getting into.
Almost everybody we serve, they all, I'd say 95% of them have what I would call unspeakable trauma, typically in their childhood.
Yeah.
And if you have that and you don't have an adult who cares for you and gets you the help you need, you're going to end up with a mental illness.
Yeah.
And again, if you don't have an adult who provides you the help you need, a psychiatrist, a counselor, the medication, you then are going to start self-medicating. It's the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And so almost everybody who's homeless, and if you end up being homeless without that trauma, within 3 months, you'll have a mental illness.
Something will happen.
Yeah, living on the streets is hard.
Well, you just the loneliness of it.
Yes.
You know, there's just the solitude is enough to really mess with you, and you know the spiritual warfare aspect as
Yes.
well. You know
Yes.
that some of those people might be afflicted
Sure.
by.
And what Missy said as we were taking her to get her license, she said, "There's just no one you can trust on the streets."
That's what really struck me about this women we met, like how dangerous it has to be for a
It's
homeless
so
woman on the
dangerous
streets
for a
like that.
woman. You know, they have a little bit of a benefit in their camp because they're both dating a brother. And so that makes it a little bit like family there. And then another older gentleman there, they call him Chief. And they just take care of this older man. And he is lovely to them. So this camp is a little bit of an
They got
anomaly.
a pretty good spot too.
They
I don't
do.
know if we wanted to say where it
No.
is, but it's a pretty good spot. And I was surprised that they were as established there as they were,
Right.
with the proximity of what's there.
We took the day we took down, the toilet and the shower, and we took down just a bunch of stuff for them, a cooler. And as I was getting ready to drive off, just 2 young guys come up, and you can tell, and that it was only the 2 girls and Chief there, and you can tell these guys wanted part of their stuff that we had dropped off. And I just kind of blew on my horn and just shook my head like, no, not today.
Yeah.
And I pulled my car up to them. I said, if you guys need something, I'm more than happy to meet you tomorrow. But I'll meet you over here.
Yeah.
And
Were they from the first location that we went to that
no,
day? They were.
I had never seen them before.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, being there isn't what scared me. It was your driving. Because here you are driving, and we know that you got a car full of sandwiches and lunches and things you're going to give out to everybody.
Yeah.
And we're just driving around, and you see somebody on a sidewalk walking the opposite direction, and you just do a U-turn in the middle of traffic across 3 lanes of traffic and stop in the middle of the road, wind down your window. Hey, you need some help?
Yeah.
Are you hungry? Want a lunch? And all I'm doing is looking over my shoulder going, no car hit me in the door. I'm good.
I'm just always looking for lights.
Yeah.
That's why I have to stay in a Prius. They have a really good turning ratio.
Oh, I learned that.
I was in some kind of a big vehicle for just a couple months, and it really cramped my style. Yeah, didn't work at all.
I just had to get that out.
That's good.
But to me, that personally just showed how devoted you are to helping someone. All you did was drive down the road, and you see somebody with a small cart on the side of the road in the opposite direction, and you just immediately darted over there.
Not letting them get by.
No.
There's a gentleman in the intersection with a sign, just hand him a couple bags of food through the. Speaking of the bags of food, do you have a group that gets together and actually puts the lunches together? Is that?
There's a woman who used to be at our center. So we had a women's care center in Ferguson for 7 years. And she came from a place of great wealth. And due to her trauma and addiction, actually trauma and mental illness and addiction, she ended up living in her car with 2 cats. And she is just such a success story. She's a beautiful, beautiful woman. She's 72 now. And so whenever I need lunches done, she comes over to my house and we put them together.
Wow.
And then I have some churches that do it quarterly. So those lunches can come from different places.
Okay.
If anybody ever wants to do lunches, they can just call me. I'll always take lunches.
And those were, it's good food. Like you give them fruit, water, good
Gatorades.
sandwiches, Gatorades, whatever they need.
We don't ever give out anything that we would not happily eat ourselves.
Good.
That is our rule.
That's great.
Everything's done with love, care, and dignity.
Yeah. And, like coffee, instant coffee, you wouldn't think of, like, that would be so great. I remember, being in the Army and we're out in the field for 30 days, no showers, nothing, just nasty, dirty, grimy. And then they would bring out a pallet of, like, chocolate milk. And everybody would go crazy for the chocolate milk. And then one corner of it, there would be a case of strawberry. And so we're all like murdering each other trying to get the strawberry milk.
Yeah, because that was all the shelf stable.
Shelf stable milk. Yeah. And it was just like, oh my God.
A treat.
Oh, yeah,
That's right.
it was the best.
Yes.
So I can imagine a cup of coffee.
Yes.
How great.
That's right.
Because we get coffee in our MREs.
Mhm.
You know, there's one in each MRE. You save them up. You get enough. You can
Right.
have coffee every day.
Mhm.
But man, going without coffee for a while and then you have it. Whew.
True, that was one of the highlights of the day that we helped you
Mhm.
serve is anybody who was offered coffee took it, and they were
Yeah.
excited to have coffee.
And we don't always have that. So I had a donor who bought me a pallet of that. We don't always have instant coffee, so that was a huge treat. Like
And nobody was like, "Do you have any cream or sugar?" Or
No,
anything?
they were
No,
not.
no. They're just, holy
know.
cow, coffee.
I should have taken sugar. I didn't even think of that.
So you're on the front lines
Mhm.
of the homelessness
Yes.
in the city of St. Louis. Is there anyone else or another group that compares to what you're doing
Oh yes.
in the city?
Yeah. Yes, I'll say yes. And then there's also, other volunteers that are down there. So some volunteers I've trained, some volunteers have been on their own, and we work really closely together.
Okay.
So I was at a nonprofit event. There's a woman at my table who goes down and prays over different areas of the city. But then when she does that, she also meets people.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not blessed with resources. And I'm blessed with resources. We have an Amazon wish list, and I have people, when someone passes away, they'll say, these are the things that I have. Can you use them? And so she's reached out to me several times and said, she's reached out to me the other night and said, do you have any small tents? And I have 6 of them,
Cool.
And so she came and cleared out probably 20% of my garage the night after I met her on things that she needed that she didn't have.
Wow.
And so I have a lot of people reach out to me with needs they have, and they can come shopping in my shed, they can come shopping in the garage,
Okay.
and we can resource those people.
Is there any estimates out there as to the homeless population in St. Louis?
There is, and boy, I don't have that number in my head. I'm thinking it's 2,000. They do a yearly count.
Okay. I wonder, do they count them through the shelters, or do they go out and try to do like
These
kind of like a
people go
census?
out, and they go out in the middle of the night to find people. They know where people are.
Yeah.
They take their flashlights. They take food to them.
Okay.
And that way, you kind of, where people are staying.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a whole night of canvassing to the city of
Wow.
St. Louis. These
was-
people do it year after year.
Okay.
And
so they
so
can keep
they know.
track of the trends and all that.
That's right.
How many of the homeless people that you run into do you think are veterans? Is there any way?
Boy, that's a great question. I need to ask that more. When I first started doing homeless, when we had the big tent city, there were a lot of older men.
Mm.
And what I am seeing now is so many more young men.
Yeah.
There's a lot of young drug use. That fentanyl has just really, really done damage.
Mm-hmm.
So I bet when I first started doing this, there were more veterans on the street.
Yeah.
I'm going to start asking that question more.
Okay. I just read the VA put out a press release in 2025. They found over 51,000. It's like 51,234, let's say, homeless veterans were placed into permanent housing last year. And it's the highest ever in the
Right, that's
history of the VA.
I know there's more help for homeless veterans in St. Louis than for any other population.
Yeah, I was talking to my brother today, or my son,
Mm-hmm.
I think, about the VA as a whole. How it's just wonderful. It's actually
Yes.
pleasant to deal with them.
Yes.
Which is really
Mm-hmm.
mind-boggling.
Has that changed over the years?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yes.
It changed. Trump's first administration is when it really changed.
Mm-hmm.
And now, there might be a little bit of a wait. Let's say you need to make an appointment, and it's like, oh, we can see you in about a month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
But that's great. It used to be 6 months, or we can't fit you in this year. Something crazy.
I have a friend who uses their medical services, and he has nothing but wonderful things to say about
Yeah,
them.
it's amazing. But that number, over 51,000, I was like, holy moly.
Mm-hmm.
And I would imagine there was a lot of Vietnam veterans, probably was
Mm-hmm.
the highest population of homeless veterans. And now it's a lot of drugs. And I lump alcohol into that as well. There's a lot of probably some alcohol abuse that has people.
I used to see so much alcohol, and I'm just not seeing as much alcohol as I
Mostly
am
drugs.
Mm-hmm.
It's cheaper probably for drugs, street drugs. You can get a $5 hit.
But you're having to use that $5 every 15 minutes.
Yeah, man, it's terrible.
It is. I mean, that fentanyl.
There's a term called narco-terrorism. You've heard of that?
Yeah.
Afghanistan did it against Russia after the war, because Afghanistan's where all the opium's grown for heroin in the world, and they started flooding Russia with cheap, free heroin to get them all hooked on heroin, and it was a way of getting the Russians back for the war. And some people think that that's what's going on today in the United States via China through Mexico in Central and Southern America. So it's pretty sad to think about. I was a firefighter EMT for a while, and have a lot of experience with overdoses, using naloxone or Narcan.
I use Narcan. Yeah. I travel with Narcan. I get handed out like candy.
Yeah, and I've treated the same people multiple times
right.
until they finally do end up killing themselves. And we would ask them all, how did you get here, man? How did this start? And usually I was on a prescription. I had surgery, hurt my back. I got put on a prescription, but then they cut me off, and then I was addicted, so I went to heroin, and then went from heroin to fentanyl. Because you can only get so high on heroin before you overdose. So then they wanted something stronger, and that I never. But you always hear the stories of like people overdosing, like, oh, my weed was laced with fentanyl, or this was laced. I never ran into that. It was
the women at the center would say that they're drug dealers. Say, hey, I got something new for you.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And they would say, I only did cocaine on the weekends. I did it recreationally. But when my drug dealer gave me fentanyl, I was back the very next day.
Instantly hooks. Yeah.
Instantly.
And we carried it on the ambulance as a medication that was carried on the ambulance.
Sure.
And for extreme cases, like burn victims and stuff, we would use it. But
and the coming down off fentanyl is one of the absolute worst.
Yeah.
And so many people try to quit, and they can't.
You can't, yeah.
I think coming down off it can take 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks. And so many people in the middle of that just give up.
Yeah. We had a clinic as well in our county, and it would just switch them from heroin addiction to methadone addiction. And now they'd have to go to the clinic to get their drugs instead of on the streets, which I guess is better. I guess that's better. I don't know. But
we had women who would go to a clinic, and I forget what drug they were getting, but it was a drug that would keep them from using.
Oh.
And they would go in this clinic at 4:30 every morning. A bus would pick them up, and they would go get their portion of drugs for the day.
Yeah.
And it worked, but they were still using a drug.
Right. It's just you're not going to, get something that's bad, or
and
you're not spending.
And you're not going to die from it.
Right.
It was controlled.
Controlled, yeah. As I always had mixed emotions about that, but I guess, it is better. Another thing that's mixed emotions is, these folks that we went and saw, they're very resourceful, very handy, they're able-bodied, they seemed, you could hold a conversation, and you could easily paint with a broad brush saying, well, these guys, they could easily go get a job. But you don't know what they're dealing with. They're probably putting on a good front while you're meeting them and handing food. And that's why I really like that you establish a relationship with these people, so that way they'll open up and really tell you what's going on.
Yeah. And and some of them, you can tell by their teeth what their drug use is.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be living homeless. Typically, you're not going to be living homeless if you go get a job at Quick Trip.
Right.
Typically, you're not going to be living homeless if you can go get a job at Edward Jones, or Equifax. Typically, you're living homeless because of a real reason. There's a real reason there.
Have you ever ran into anybody who's like, I just like living like this? I'm not addicted to drugs?
They will say that because they can't live in community.
Okay.
So if I have someone say, I can't go to the shelter, I'd rather be out here and be homeless, it's because they are unable. They are unable to live in community. They're unable to live around other people. We had a gentleman when it was 25 degrees below wind chill. I guess this was 3 years ago.
Ooh.
Yeah, can you imagine that? Just imagine that for a second. And he was up against a big ballast under a bridge. He could not even go into a tent because of his mental illness. Like, I put a tent right next to him. I've got a tent heater in there. All you got to do is crawl in. And he's like, Miss Cathryn, I can't do it. Can't do it. He couldn't tell me his name. He couldn't do it. So we went through so many, I should have called you guys. We went through so many trials of how to, I had to keep heat on him. I couldn't do propane heat because the wind was so bad and just blow it out. I mean, we were going down 4 times a day, making sure this guy hadn't died and trying different things. Finally, I can't, a Jackery is a small generator, about this big. But it's $350.
Yeah.
And I was not willing to leave my $350 generator down there. Like, I mean, I just struggled with God over this. And God's finally like, you know what? If you'd go to a hotel, you'd pay $350 for 3 nights in a hotel for him. You'd do that. You got to let go of this Jackery.
Yeah.
So I took a heating pad. And that heating pad with that Jackery lasted him all night long. We put that heating pad down into his sleeping bag and kept him alive for a week.
Yeah. Wow.
And then every day I traded out that Jackery for him. And that's just how we kept him alive. But that was after 5 things that did not work. You know, spending lots of money on this huge propane heater and, you know, all these different things we thought would work and never worked. And every time it got cold, and I told him, I said, I just don't want my Jackery stolen, you know, and he put it under his blankets. And he said, no one's going to look under here. I'm like, you're right.
Yeah.
But as far as we know, he never got up.
Yeah. Wow.
During that. No one's going to get up.
Yeah, I've been, you know, I was in Korea that it gets brutally cold. And I was up in the northwest mountain passes and we had the gear the military gave us. And it was still miserable.
Yes.
We're still freezing. My toes still hurt.
Yes.
And it was horrible. And I cannot imagine being, and it gave me a whole new respect for the Korean War veterans because I was like, man, in 1950, how good was the gear then?
Right.
Nowhere like we have now. And I feel like I'm about to die.
Right. They didn't have hot hands then.
No. And, you know, so for these people in St. Louis, it gets brutally cold, especially down by the river. The
Down
wind
by the
coming
river,
off the
there's
water.
so much wind down there. There is, yeah.
Man.
We found urinals that have a lid on them that we dispersed this year. That was pure gold. Because then men didn't have to get out of their tents.
Oh, yeah. You don't have to worry about spilling it.
No.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Or you could put it down inside your sleeping bag and stay warm
Absolutely.
for a little bit, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So every year I feel like we come up with something that helps just a little bit more during the winter.
How about life straws? You ever hand those out? You know what that is?
You know, I do know what they are. No, we don't ever hand those out. They're pretty expensive, aren't they? Are they about $18, $20?
They used to be. I think you can. I think they do a charity though. They have a different side of the house that they deal with. I don't know, look into that. But those things are great. They're literal lifesavers.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. No, I've never thought of doing those.
I will have to tell you that when we spent time together that day, I left there. When we left, Matt and I were driving back out here to our houses, and we hardly said a word.
Yeah, it was very quiet. Right.
It was a very silent moment for us. One of the things that crossed my mind, 2 things did actually. One was I felt like my own beliefs were being challenged. Not that I don't believe in helping, but in the history of my own church experience, serve day. Oh, we're all going to serve day, and we're going
Let's
to
go plant flowers. Let's paint a
Yeah,
building.
we're going to go do this, and it's always a clean environment.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So-called clean, safe environment, and then we walk away feeling good. Yeah, I did my serve day, but nothing like what we did that day with you. That was serve day.
Yeah, and I think also it's, you know, sometimes when I think about retiring, and my board will say, why would you retire? Then you're just not going to get paid for what you're doing. You know, God's still going to ask of me the same thing.
Yeah.
If I retire, God's not going to stop this. God's not going to stop asking me to do this. You know, if I don't go downtown, you know, I wake up in the middle of the night. I just think, how are they doing? Did they got water today? You know, did they have enough food tonight? How are their spirits? How are they emotionally today? It will just pull on my heart if we spend too much and don't go down there.
Does what you do, I mean, I know it brings you joy in your heart. Does what you do ever bring you down? Like God, I don't know how I can keep doing this.
Yeah. 2 years ago, there was a man on a sidewalk, and it was one of those 100-degree days. And his pants weren't all the way pulled up, and he was on the concrete. And when I went down to him, that day we had a cooler, and we put ice water in a cooler, and we just fill it with hand towels. And so on really hot days, we go down and we put ice cold hand towels around people's necks just to bring their body temperature down. And then we also have drinks and food and stuff. What we're really doing is getting body temperatures down. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't rouse him. And he was mumbling, so I knew he was still alive. But I was putting the cold towels on his feet, underneath his armpits. I was doing everything I knew to do, which wasn't a lot, but I knew a little bit. And could not at all rouse him. And I've only called 911 3 times in 19 years, and I called 911. And he passed before they got there. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't go down for 3 months. Yeah.
Wow.
I was cooked. I was cooked. I was cooked. So I don't. And then it was when it was so cold, I guess 2 years ago, and there weren't enough shelters, and nothing was working with the shelters. They had what they called a warming bus, but the bus wasn't warm. It was freezing cold. And we were trying to volunteer and support them instead of doing our own thing. And, I waited in there for 3 hours. I only got 3 people in a shelter. I'm like, these next nights I'm not doing that. In 3 hours, we can get dozens of people in a shelter. And went to one guy, and it was 20 below. And he is sitting in a puddle of water because there was a vent there, a warm vent. Mm-hmm. So in the midst of this 20 below, he is sitting in water naked. And, the whole top of him, it's 20 below.
Yeah.
And I had just read that day of what a short lifespan most drugs have. Because I couldn't lift him. I've got 2 other people in my car. And when we go down and do that, our car will have clean clothes, warm clothes, boots, socks. So if you'll see people down there on those days walking with no shoes on. They might have socks on, but they'll have no shoes. So we get those people off the streets into the car and give them things. But I got 2 other people in the car. I got my girlfriend in the car. I can't lift this guy up. We have blankets. And so I put a blanket around him, and I said, you stay put, don't you move. And I'm coming back in 15 minutes for you. And came back in 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, that drug had worn off enough that he could lean on me and get out of that puddle. And we were able to put a blanket around him, and all we did was put a blanket around him. I put on socks before he got out. I went in and I gave them some clothes for him. I said, this guy needs a warm shower. And he's just coming down off something. And that was really a hard night. Thinking, and that was in a back alley, that if we had not gone down that back alley, that man would have died in that puddle. And I think it's the deaths that I don't do well with. I don't do well with those.
Well, it kind of brings me into, there's a quote out there that's pretty common. You can't pour from an empty cup. Mm-hmm. Take time to refill.
Let's just skip over that one. Let's go to the next subject.
How do you bounce back? I mean, you don't stay up here all day long every week. Mm-hmm. So what are you doing or who do you have in your life that is building you back up, keeping you motivated and moving?
My board members would say that's my hardest struggle. I usually get pretty strong points from my board, but on that one, that's my hardest struggle. And especially I'm the caretaker for my parents and for my sister. And so these last 2 years have been really hard. My mom had 2 different cancers last year. My dad fell and broke a hip and a shoulder. Then he broke again and broke another shoulder. And then my sister's been very, very sick. And so it's been a lot these last 2 years. Typically my answer would be I'm going to go on a vacation. I went to Hawaii every other year for a long time. And I'd spend 2 weeks in Hawaii every other year. And that worked really well for me. Times away worked really well for me. But that hasn't really been possible for 2 years now. And even a night away is really hard with my sister. So that's a struggle in my life right now. My friend Lynn, who I said used to be at the center, we do coffee about 3 mornings a week. Okay. And we have a sweet little coffee shop in Ferguson that's faith-based. And the baristas there are just amazing young women. And so it's just a lovely place to be. And we just start our days off sharing our lives, what's going on in our days. And it has been very special to me this last year. Just to start a day off like that, having coffee with a friend. That's not something I typically slow down to do. So that's been very special for me. And then she's someone who goes downtown with me often. And it's nice having someone to do that.
Do you keep a diary?
Facebook's kind of my diary.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Facebook's kind of my diary.
Okay.
I share a lot on that. And
So I mentioned that I had 2 challenges. The first one was what I'd already mentioned.
my driving.
No. 3 challenges then, if I want to include your driving. No, the first one was about clean serve days,
Mm-hmm.
neat and tidy serve days, making me feel good,
Mm-hmm.
or church membership. The other one that came to my mind, it's challenging me in a way I don't know how I'm going to respond to it yet, but I like talking it out loud, is all these churches in our area, St. Charles, St. Louis, almost every single one will always host, sponsor, or conduct mission trips to different places. You know.
Yes, I know exactly where you're going.
Let's go to Malawi.
Yeah, Thailand,
Yes.
Mexico.
We're going to take 30 people to Jamaica. I get it. You know, there's places all over the world that need help. But you know what? We need help right here in town.
That's right.
And all that money that we're wasting on
We could
airfares,
build houses here.
all that stuff, all that money that can get put right into direct investment into making so many things better here.
So I used to do Homes of Hope. It was in Mexico. I did it with my son. I took my daughter. And it was $6,000. So it was $12,000.
Right.
And we'd go down over Martin Luther King. So we'd get in on a Friday, we'd leave on a Monday, and they would have the foundation of the house built. And so you'd build this house in 2 days. And it was moving. You know, any family that got a house, their kids ended up going to school. I still keep in touch with one of the families. I mean, it's been amazing how it's changed their lives. They were living in a lean-to tent when we got there. It was life-changing for them. But I kept looking at that $12,000. And number one, what $12,000 is to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a heck of a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then, you know, doing homeless work, I know how far $12,000 goes with homeless. And we would probably have 45 people on those trips. So you do that times $6,000.
Holy moly.
That is a heck of a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
And it's through an organization called YWAM. So YWAM's all over the world. You can do YWAMs all over the world. And they're meant for families coming. Some families would come and bring 6 kids. $6,000 a kid. And
I mean, our city would look completely different.
it would look completely different if we did this here.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do it all the time. So
No.
then that focus suddenly shifts. You want to go overseas again
Right.
after 5 years, go for it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It would.
But just like if you drive down Page from 270 to downtown,
Mm-hmm.
all those lots with those burnt out buildings that are crumbling to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how much would it take for the Corps of Engineers to go in there with some dozers, push all that stuff down, clear land, and
Well,
then I mean somebody owns
First
it, I
off,
guess,
you have to
but
buy out all the Australian property owners.
Is that what it is?
A lot of them.
You know, you saw, I don't know if you got involved after the tornado. We got very involved after the tornado for about 7 months, and we're still involved now. The volunteers that came down after the tornado
Yeah.
were massive. The amount of work that got done by volunteers. Now, after about 3 months, it died off.
Mm-hmm.
But for those 3 months,
Well, 3 months is a long time.
it's something like I've never seen.
Hmm.
It's something like I've never seen. The amount of trees that were moved, trees that were cut up with chainsaws, cars that were moved, land that was cleared, houses that were cleared out, houses that were made safe, roofs that were put on, tarps that were put on. I've never seen our city move like that in the way that we did. So we have the ability to do that, right?
Yeah. Americans are pretty good about that after a tragedy coming together for a short time, and then it seems like it just peters out, and we're back to arguing about.
You know, there are
red
houses
versus
down
blue
there
or
now
something
that all they
stupid.
need is to have doors hung. That's all they need.
Hmm.
And then that house can be moved back into. They just need doors hung.
Wow.
Is there any bureaucratic red tape with like permitting after something like that. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
you got to get all the proper permits and
Sure.
pay the fees to
Absolutely.
the city
Yeah,
and all
absolutely.
that kind of junk. They
Absolutely.
don't waive that stuff for people.
I can't answer that. I don't know that.
That would be.
There's an organization called Love the Lou. I want to give a shout out to them. There are people in like the Ville that are the leaders of that neighborhood, the most established. They're leaders. It's who other people on that street come to if they have a problem. And what Love the Lou is doing is shoring up those leaders. They're getting those leaders back in the house first. Because these other people need their leaders there.
Yeah.
They've always had the leaders. And to bring these other people back in first and not have their leader in their home isn't going to work. And so they've, over this year, they've named those leaders. They know who they are. They've already known them because Love the Lou has been in the neighborhood for I don't know how long, longer than All Among Us has been around. So they're already familiar with these leaders. So they're doing everything they can to get those leaders back into their house. And now let's bring in these other people. Now let's support them. But first, let's bring the leaders back in.
Yeah.
Which I think is really smart.
Love the Lou. That's
Yes.
cool.
Yeah.
You mentioned you have an Amazon store or a
We
wish
have an
list.
Amazon wish list, yes.
Wish list. Okay.
Where's that at? I tried to find it today.
I would have to send you the link.
Okay.
So it's not
Okay.
publicly available, or like if I went on Amazon and searched for your organization?
Let me check on that, can I?
I searched All Among Us on Amazon,
Yeah.
and all I got was the movie All Among Us.
Oh.
Or that anime thing.
That anime
The
thing?
anime?
Let me
Yeah.
check on that.
So
Okay.
even with YouTube, All Among Us, when I did that, when I went to look at some of the YouTube.
Do All Among Us Inc.
Yeah, I did All Among Us Cathryn. And then it popped up.
Well, that works.
Yeah.
You knew how to spell my name.
Right.
Yeah, All Among Us Inc. on YouTube.
So why don't you tell us about the organization you're a part of, because it's more than just I'm going out there on a Saturday and feeding the homeless.
Right. So actually, when we started 10 years ago, our first mission was the homeless, because that's what I had always done. And the city had reached out, and they had closed Larry Rice in a weekend. On a Friday, they closed Larry Rice, which was housing about 400 people. And a lot of those people were women. So that put a ton of women on the street. And the city promised to have a women's shelter and a men's shelter, and they promised to have it open for a year. And they promised them caseworkers and counselors. And a consultant with the city called and said, could you come in and provide hygiene bags for the women? And every hygiene bag cost about $25. And we were brand new. We didn't have enough money to provide these hygiene bags. And they had 85 beds set up. But they only had, at first, about 10 people. Nobody would come in because they didn't trust the city. And so I put out an email then, we need these hygiene bags. We ended up with all the hygiene bags we needed within 2 days. And I went on the streets and really talked people into coming into the center and said, All Among Us will be there. And I knew these people just from the streets, and we had been serving. When I was at Grossman, we were serving the women of Larry Rice. And I said, we'll be involved. Come on in. It's safer than being on the streets. And all they had were cots. And if you weighed more than about 150 pounds, that cot was going to fall on the floor. All they were given was one sheet, one pillow, and like a green lightweight army blanket. And that gymnasium was 65 degrees at night. And there was no coffee in the morning. The food was jail food. It was awful. And it was a horrible situation. And I thought, if I could ever do a center, this is teaching me everything not to do. Within a month, the city called and said, we're closing down this shelter. They had taken over a neighborhood's rec center. That was their swimming, it was their basketball, it was their dance, it was everything for this neighborhood. So they said, we're closing this down in a month. I'm like, you cannot do that. We have promised all these women a year. Where are you going to go with these women? There's no place. Every shelter bed in St. Louis is filled up. There's no place you can go with them. It was awful. And so that's when a church called and said, we have this church. It's been abandoned for 10 years. If you'll do the renovation for it, you can have it for $1 a year for 20 years.
Whoa.
And, well, kind of. We originally thought it was going to be about $200,000 to renovate it, and it was $650,000 to renovate it. Ooh. Now, I've never raised more than $70,000 at that point. My first year raised $70,000. So now I'm going to have to raise $500,000. And I'm just like, that's just not going to happen. And we raised $500,000.
Yeah, God said, watch this.
Yes. And a lot of that was in gifts in kind. You know, American Painting came in and donated the paint. They came in and watched us paint, and they took over painting. Same thing with drywall. Neguar Drywall came in and donated all the drywall. They came in and saw us trying to hang this drywall, and they said, just stop. We'll be in tomorrow. We had a lot of that happening. Agape Construction, and they pay their guys even when they're not working. And so when their guys weren't working, they sent their guys over. They're amazing craftsmen. So we had a lot of people step in like that. We got a lot of gifts in kind. But we did that for 2 years in a row. And so then we opened that women's care center, and we could have 10 women at a time. At one point, we had 2 babies, and they could live there for 2 years. If they came in making money, they paid rent. But if they came in not working, which the majority did, they didn't have to pay rent, but they had to go to recovery for 25 hours a week. Mm. And our mission for them was recovery. We wanted them to have 2 years of focus on recovery in their lives, whether that was from addiction, alcoholism, trauma, mental illness, whatever they needed recovery for. You get 25 hours a week for that. We also had a Christian counselor they met with once a week. We did art therapy. We did healing from generational trauma. We had gardens. A lot of them had no idea a potato came from the ground. They're like, we're not eating that. They came out of the dirt. We've been eating potatoes every day. Like, they just had no idea. So we did a lot around nutrition, did a lot around parenting. We didn't work on reconciliation with family until after about 18 months. By that time, their family had seen them for 18 months doing well. And then the family was a little bit open to possible reconciliation. So we didn't rush into that at all. And then if they got out in the world and they're like, we can't do this, it's too soon, they could come back for another 2 years. So we did that for 7 years. And then my dad and my sister and my mom got sick, and it was time to close that. So Crossroads Counseling now is a Christian counseling organization in St. Louis. They have probably 8 different locations. They now have that building, and I just office there with them and share that with them. But now that gives counseling to a place in North County, which is really good. So we had that for 7 years, and that took definitely the majority of the money and the majority of my time, because it was 24/7, 365. And when we went through COVID, our money stopped coming in March of that year. It just stopped. And I had a board member meet with me, and he said, if you let go of staff, and if you take a 50% pay cut for a year, you can keep the doors open. But otherwise, you're not going to be able to. And so we did that. And so for the rest of the years there with the center, it was me and a part-time staff member ran it. And the women really upped their game. So the women weren't babysat anymore. We didn't have people spending the night with them. They grew up and handled themselves and did a very good job of it. And so that actually worked out, I think, very well for the women. They wanted to be grown women. They wanted to have that autonomy and that responsibility. And so when we close that, we still do what's called life mentoring. So I still meet with women. We do a lot of financial literacy. What we find when people end up on the street often is because of finances. Yeah. Not necessarily lack of finances, though, to be honest, there's a lot of that. You just simply can't live on minimum wage anymore. Right. So you get somebody who can work at a McDonald's or work at a gas station, you cannot afford rent. There's no way you can afford rent. Even really if you have 2 minimum wage jobs, it's still really hard to afford rent in a car, especially if you're paying car insurance. So I do as much financial literacy with people as I can. We try to get debt paid off in every way we can. So we do a lot of that. We do a lot of life mentoring and just daily life skills, parenting skills. So I meet with a lot of women on that. If we have a young woman who she doesn't need all of her daughter's daycare paid this summer. She just needs a portion of it paid. And I've been with her now probably over 10 years. So we help with things like that. So it's a lot of homeless and a lot of life mentoring.
Wonderful. It's a lot.
It is a lot. I'm just trying to take it all in. I'm sitting here like, I don't know how she does this.
Right. Well, truly, I mean, I can't describe you any other way. I mean, truly, you're an angel on the streets in St. Louis. You really are.
Thank you.
In so many ways. How is it that someone who is listening to the show can reach out and help you?
Sure. If they wanted to donate, our website is www.cathryn, allamong.us. That's ALLAMONG.us. Or my phone number is it okay to give that out?
Sure.
My phone number is 314.
Is this your personal cell phone number you're going to give out?
Yes.
Well, you did give it to the people down at home.
Absolutely.
You handed out, give it out to everybody. So
My phone number is
I was surprised
I
about
was
that.
like, what are you?
my phone number is 314-560-4895.
Also, is there anything that we or anybody listening can pray for you about?
Absolutely. I think the number one thing I want prayed for is the homeless prayed for, and for their safety and for their mental illness. I mean, to have mental illness and not have the medication you need, not have the counseling you need is a really rough road to take. For their addiction, that people can find help for that. Just that they can have some peace and calm in their life. And then personally, my sister's going on hospice tomorrow, and that's kind of a tough road for me right now. And that someday I will figure out self-care.
That is something that days later after we first met, I was like, I was kind of like just going, like I was like just going along with the flow of what was happening, and I was like, I didn't ask anybody, is there anything I could pray for them about? I did. God bless, man. Wish you the best and that kind of stuff. But have you? I would imagine just that could be a very powerful question to ask somebody, and you don't know where they're at spiritually or whatever. But
I go very slow on that. I have a lot of spiritual abuse in my life.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of those people have been really hurt by Christians. My story that changed me was a church van pulling up, and they always brought food. And so all the people would come up, from those camps and wait for food. And these people made this holy huddle, all holding hands, praying for safety from the people standing right behind them waiting for food.
Oh.
And I thought, I will never, ever do that. If you want to say that prayer, you say that on your church parking lot before you leave.
Yeah.
You don't say that prayer in front of these people.
I'm glad you said that out loud, because that was one of the thoughts in my head when I was just now talking about, we can do a mission trip in town versus spending all the money to go overseas. And I know that the first
it's dangerous
argument,
down there.
yes, will be, well, we gotta look out for our security.
No,
Yeah.
No, you don't.
What I did not.
I
do
saw
this
you
with
in action.
Yeah, I'll do this with you guys. What I normally do, and I didn't do it with you guys, is that we have a small safety talk. If I ever say get in the car, there's just no questions asked. You guys just get in the car and we go. And so I usually do a small safety talk. If I go down with the group, I'll say one person, like Kevin, you're in charge of safety. That means you hang back, and you're looking at people coming from a block away. I'm not concerned about who's right up here with me. I'm concerned about who's coming. Those two guys, young guys, walking into the camp. That's who I'm concerned about.
Well, I don't know if you saw that, but we were doing that anyway. When
I'm
we were
sure
out
you
with
were.
Pretty. I was scanning. Can't help it. I scan when I go to Chick-fil-A.
So I usually do small safety talks before we go out. So what I want to do, typically there's a time that somebody will ask me, why are you doing this?
Okay.
Why are you down here all the time?
Yeah.
And that's when I say, I hope I'm loving you like Jesus has loved me. That's my goal. And if I'm not, can you let me know? And I'm going to up my game.
Yeah.
And that's when that discussion starts. But if I am not mirroring that strong enough that they see that,
Sure.
then I truly need to up my game.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
I got a email from the other woman at the camp, and she said, you guys came down with no judgment today. It was the day we brought most of the stuff down. So there's no judgment in your actions, no judgment in your voice. And she said, this has never happened to us before.
Yeah, I would imagine that's the biggest worry on their part, is being judged, or these filthy drug users and that kind of stuff.
Or some people coming in and telling them how to do something. They know how to run that camp better than I do. I can't tell them anything.
Right.
Or
Yeah,
there's a trade.
Yeah.
I'll provide all this if you do this.
Right. No.
Yeah.
No
I need
way.
you to cut my. How would you come cut my grass? I'll feed
Right.
you if you come do that.
Right.
And,
I heard a sermon one time, and I can't name them all, but in the Bible there's 4 ways of serving people. And the number one's providing relief. And that's what All in Oneness does. So I don't come in to try to get you a job. I don't come in and try to get you housing. I don't try to come in and repair everything with your family. I don't do any of that. We come in and we provide relief today. What do you need today?
Yeah.
And I will do my best to get back to you within 48 hours. So if you give me what you need, or I'm going to communicate with you. If I can't come back in 48 hours, I'm going to let you know why.
Yeah, there was things that you offered them that you could tell they were like, oh, yeah, we really could use that.
We love that shower.
Like, or matches. When you say, hey, do you guys need some matches? And they're like, yes. You know, they weren't asking us for anything. They were like, hey, you got any of this? You got any of this? They were just saying, thank you very much. And then, hey, do you need some body wipes? Well, yes, I could use body wipes. Thank you.
I asked Chief, I was able to take down mattresses for them. So trifold mattresses, camping mattresses. And I had 4. And Chief's old. I don't know how he's mid-70s probably. And so he was thrilled to death to get this mattress because he was just sleeping on the ground. They were all just sleeping on the ground.
Man, that would kill me within a couple days.
Kill me. But I asked him, I said, what do you need? And he said, a watch. Well, I said, every man needs a watch.
Yeah.
It was such a simple request.
It is, yeah.
You know, I said, do you have a clock? And he said, no, ma'am. And he didn't have a phone. And he said, I'd like to have a watch.
Yeah, that will drive you crazy not knowing what time it is or what day it is. That's I've been there. Yeah. And yeah, that's pretty annoying.
Yeah.
To the
So I'm gonna go to Walmart and I'm gonna find the man a watch.
Nice.
So your contact info we're going to put on our Facebook page. We'll
Thank you.
also have it on our links through our podcast.
Okay. And I can send you that Amazon link.
Yes, and I have one more question.
Yes.
Earlier in the show, you said the statement grocery list or your shopping list. What is on your list right now that you say, I need this more than anything else?
It's right on my Amazon list. There's
Okay.
a top 10 things on my Amazon list is what I need right now.
Okay, yep.
Bug spray. If I could have one thing I need, bug spray and body wipes.
Bug spray and body wipes.
Downtown gets buggy right now. And those would be the 2 things
Yeah, especially like tick repellent, I think would be a good
Yes.
one. The ticks are
we are asked about constantly.
terrible this year.
People need bug spray. And also the people who don't have access to a shower, there's big body wipes you get. And sometimes that is the only thing they have that they wash up with. I always wish I could get everybody a shower just once a month, you know.
Yeah, nothing different in my time in the Army. I used to call
Yes.
a shower in a box.
Like I said, we would go 30 days without a shower.
Yeah.
And man, that first time you step into a hot water, it could have been cold water. I wouldn't care.
Yes.
As long as you had soap on your body to get that grime off.
It has to feel so
Holy
good.
moly.
A woman came into the church that I go to who was homeless, and the church called for some advice. And we don't have a shower at our church, but they had a bathroom downstairs that was private. And I said, can you give her a washcloth and a bar of soap and maybe some shampoo? And they were very proud because they went out and got ivory soap for her, which for a woman is really nice, and a nice shampoo. They didn't just go to the dollar store. And they said, we didn't recognize her when she walked out of the bathroom.
Yeah.
And they had extra clothes at the church. They're like, we literally did not recognize her. She walked past me. I didn't recognize her. She looked so different after washing up. And I said, that's all she needed today. You provided her the relief that she needed. You gave her everything she needed because they were trying to figure out this shelter or that shelter. I said, she wasn't asking for that.
Relief for the day.
Relief for the day.
Yeah, string enough of those together, man.
Yeah.
You're on a roll.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You want
okay.
to see your mental health go up? You have somebody care for you. Somebody knows your name.
Yeah, I imagine there's so many burnt bridges in their lives, you know, where their families are just tired of it. They can't, or they just can't help them.
Sure.
And that's something I thought I was thinking about on the way home is how blessed I am. Like I was like, it's beyond words. I have no right to complain about anything ever.
And we take it all for granted.
We do take it all for, and really the thing is, like, after a few days, you kind of forget about how blessed you are, and then you
start
you're
complaining again.
You're back to like, man, my dang grass is too long. This sucks. I got to cut my grass. You know, it's like, come on, dude.
You know, my sister has mental illness, and with her mood disorder, you know, she was angry the majority of her life, and just not easy to be a sister to. And I have found that the people in the streets can be the same way, and I can happily serve them when it was such a struggle for me with my sister.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Oh, it does. Yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
can relate.
Yes, there are many times where it's so much easier to help a stranger than your own
It is.
family members.
Right. But since my sister's developed dementia, she's like the sweetest thing in the world. And it's so lovely her finishing up her life being the sweetest person in the world.
That's nice. Usually it flips. They're like a nice person, then they get dementia and they get really mean.
That's right. But she was already really mean, so now she's gotten really sweet.
So it has, meaner, so
it has switched. Yeah, it's been nice.
Oh, boy. Well, we'll be praying for you. And,
thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. Is there anything else you want to talk about or get out there before we wrap it up?
I do appreciate all the volunteers. I appreciate the people I see down there handing things out. Now's a great time just to have water in your car for people you see at corners.
Ooh, yeah.
Or some snacks. It's really easy to make a little blessing bag and keep it in your car and just hand it out. But water in the summertime is really important. So I do thank people who already do that. It's very kind of you.
Cool. Kevin, you got anything?
I can't follow that up.
Yeah.
No, I'm just so glad that we've stayed connected over the years.
Me too,
and
Kevin.
to get you back on here.
Thank you. I've appreciated tonight.
Yeah, so you could share your story because it's just amazing.
Thank you.
It is.
And I hope, even for myself, that it is enough to challenge us and push us to do something that matters.
Absolutely.
Truly matters, not just saying, oh, I just want to serve day to day.
Right.
Yeah, what was your serve day?
Yeah, there are certain things that as Christians we're commanded to
That's
do.
right. That's right.
Help the homeless,
The
widows, spread the gospel, be a part of that.
Poor and the vulnerable.
And man, a lot of it comes down to just be nice to people. Just be a human being to other people. Be nice. Don't judge people. Somebody asks you for $1, don't worry about what they're going to spend it on.
That's right.
Just
That's
in your
right.
mind, say a prayer. I pray they're using this
That's
for the
right.
right thing. Let God handle it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely with that. People will say, oh, I'm not giving them money. I give out money all the time. And that's not up to me.
Right. It's
Not
God's
up to
money
me.
anyway.
That's right.
God gave it to me. So
I used to question myself about that because I did the same thing at a street corner. I always had something ready to go.
Yes.
And you'd see the same person there 3 days in a row
Sure
and
you
going, okay, come on. Really? And then I had to quickly just take that judgment bone out of my brain.
Yes.
Because you know what? When I hand them that money and the light turns green, I feel better.
Yes.
And whatever he does with it,
That's
or
right.
she,
Right.
do
My dad
whatever.
said he used to feel bad going downtown with me because he would feel so good. I don't always feel good going downtown. There's many days I don't want to go, but I always come home feeling good. But my dad would say, I feel too good doing this. It just can't be right.
All right, folks. Well, thanks for listening. You notice we didn't have a tasting today. We'll be back next show with a new bourbon to review. If you have suggestions of a bourbon you'd like to try, you can email us at showmemk@gmail.com. You can connect with us on Facebook. Be sure to please like, share, follow, subscribe, all that on Spotify. Leave us a comment there. Let us know where you're listening from. We picked up listeners in India.
yeah, we sure did.
India does pop on and off our listenership. Where else? Korea, Japan, UK. There was another oddball in there, wasn't
Specifically in India, Bengaluru, Karnataka, wherever that is.
it? Okay. Well, welcome.
And I'm pretty sure I didn't even spell it right or pronounce it right.
Yeah.
I would like to know if anybody decides to listen to us and it's enough to feel moved enough to hear Cathryn's story today, that if you do end up giving or assisting All Among Us in any way, give us a shout out. Let us know. We're not looking for any bragging rights or anything like
No.
that, but we just want to know if there was an impact while we had this discussion.
I'm sure anybody listening to this was impacted. Whether they do anything about it or not, I don't know. But I hope they do.
Yes.
And it's affected me.
Yes.
And how I live my life almost every day now. I've been a Christian since 2003, and there's a lot of things that God is demanding of us Christians that I'm just kind of avoiding, and I'm sick of it. Sick with myself about it. So, let us know, folks, what you think. Leave us a comment. We really appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Peace out.